started recording. Sorry. Okay, so we did the brief synopsis of the case study. How did Rinaldi get into this mess in the first place?
I think it's when she didn't want to, or she wanted to just find the biggest and best thing she could right out of school. Well, she had a good offer with the company that she had good connections with. The atmosphere was great. The like CEO and her manager and stuff liked her. I think she just thought there was bigger and better things out there, and that's kind of what got her into the mess.
Okay. I agree. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add?
I mean, there's other things for sure, but I think that's one of them.
I think as far as her getting into it, meaning like getting hired there, is that what you're referring to? Or all the problems that she has at the end of the case study?
Well, the mess that they're in at the end. So what?
What contributed
Maybe
to
we
that?
should start there. Yeah, describe what the mess is.
Okay. Well, I from my point of view. Oh, go ahead, Shayla.
No, go ahead.
Starting out, I understood why she made the decision, and I thought she made a pretty good decision, based on the information she had. She, wanted good employee training, which they had a reputation for doing, for kind of grooming their new hires. They seemed to be more stable to her. And so, I mean, she had a lot of good reasons for wanting to go there, I thought. So I wouldn't fault her. I mean, maybe she is at fault, but I wouldn't fault her necessarily for that decision. But then I think a lot of them are just social problems that kind of happened afterwards. Not just social, but, relationships with other people. So that wasn't a clear answer, but I just kind of wanted to say, like, from my point of view, it's not just the fact that she's working there. She might have been able to avoid some problems, but working there probably wasn't. It was avoidable, but it probably wasn't like a huge mistake in and of itself.
Right. Okay.
I had kind of a different, I mean, not a different take than you, Aria, but I don't think it was all Follett and Vaughn's fault. A lot of Rinaldi's interactions came across to me as whiny and victimization kind of a mode. Instead of talking to them and having an open line of communication of saying, okay, this is where I'm struggling. I don't feel like I was given guidance or guidelines or responsibilities or training. Instead of being an adult and going and having an adult conversation, I felt like there was a lot of whiny, backbiting, temper tantrum stuff.
Passive aggressive, kind of not saying anything.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought the same thing. So of the conflict that they're having, how much of it do you think did Follett contribute? How much of it is her fault?
She's a manager, so I think a big chunk of it's her fault, but.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Definitely, it doesn't really matter. If you're the manager, you have to figure out a way to deal with those problems. Martha could be wrong, but it's the manager's job to try to find the best solution for it.
Right. And part of the problems came from her not having enough to do, and she got there and the manager wasn't even prepared for her. And I'm thinking here, like the manager, it's not just a normal job where you're on your own and you just do your own work and, the quality of your work is what you're judged on. But she also has to delegate well, learn how to do that, and then learn how to teach well and train well, those under her, especially a new hire when they have a reputation nationally for grooming their new hires. That's part of her, that's probably written down in her job responsibilities and her job description, or at least some of it. And so I would say I would fault her big time, like Shayla said, for not doing her job. She is supposed to train. Even if she's too busy, to delegate, that's part of your job. You got to find something for her to do, and she blamed her for not being assertive or innovative. And I'm thinking, you didn't give her anything to work with. I mean, you can't just come up with ideas out of nothing. She learned about the company, but anyway, I feel like she should have been more prepared for a new hire. And she should have been more active in her training and development and stuff. So her lack of something to do caused a lot of these problems, I think.
Right. And how much of it do you guys think is Vaughn's contribution? How much do you think is Vaughn's fault?
Oh, he definitely owns a fair share of it because he was disrespectful and kind of snarky with her.
From day one, yeah.
Yeah.
And if he wants to be a manager, which he seems to act like he does, then he needs to know how to do all the stuff that Follette is doing. And he should have been a little bit more hands-on in the training as well.
Hey, I have a quick. Can you guys see me, or is it? Okay, I don't know why. Now, can you see me or no?
No, it's black.
That is so weird. Anyways, so I guess I'm just gonna have like a picture because I it's saying my camera's on right now, but it's like even I can only see like the whatever profile picture, whatever it is.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyways, but if you can hear me, I'll just like pipe in on that.
Go for it, yeah.
So, and just kind of going with Vaughn, and I mean, what? Hold on, I'm trying to remember what exactly I put, but basically, kind of agreeing with all of you. He just didn't make things easier. It's like kind of a hard position. Being in the office, being like one of the people where you've been there a long time, I think one of the most important roles is just making people feel welcome and helping them in any way you can, other than kind of like undermining them and trying to show them who's boss or whatever. So I think just generally that's like just good office behavior is just being nice, like upfront and nice and helpful. That's kind of what I had.
Yeah.
He was acting like he was threatened.
Yeah, very.
Exactly.
But she was getting a lot of mixed messages because I think it's on page 4 where Follette tells her, "You answer to me." You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then Jamie's the one delegating responsibilities to her that kind of seem like he doesn't want to do them. And I don't agree at all with the way Martha approached it with Follette by kind of whining about it. But, so, and then Follette talks out the other side of her mouth saying, well, just to help out, be a team player, which is great. I think you need to do that.
Okay.
But outline and guideline right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there's this double standard. She says, sometimes you just need to help out. There's more work to do than we have time for, you just help out. And so she's like doing what she's told, and then also being accused of being like boring and not innovative. And so I'm thinking, well, what's she supposed to do? That I think that Follette is not very organized, and she does not know what she wants. And like I said, I don't think she's a very good manager. She doesn't know what she wants her underlings to be doing. She has no specific goals. So of course, when she does something wrong, when Martha does something wrong, she'll just criticize it, but she doesn't give her any guidelines to help her improve. So it's just a big mess with her.
Yeah, she's not engaged. She's not an engaged manager, for sure.
Not with managing, maybe with her own work alone, but not with the people she's supposed to be training, which is the essence of being a manager.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of going and piggybacking off that. I just have like a personal experience with that, just because I started an internship just a few months ago and whatnot, and so from like reading this, kind of hearing the conversation that we've been having, I was thinking of how hard it would be. So my job, it's at a bank, and it's credit analyst work, so it's just one of those things you've never done before, and what my manager did, my boss, he assigned a mentor to me, and then he also took the time to where he would take my work and make sure it was done correctly. And more often than not, when I first started, it was done incorrectly. So he would, sit me down, go through what I did wrong or ways I could improve and things. And to me, that just made all the difference. I mean, he's got so much on his plate, but he's, and 2 other people started the same day I did. So he's doing that with all of us. But I think that just made a world of difference. And I think in the end, it'll help people be more effective workers for the, business, company, or wherever you work. So that's just kind of what I experienced.
Right. I've been in those companies that give you a book and say, here, go read this for 3 days, and then come back and learn. And you come back and you're like, well, I learned everything that I read on your website before I applied for the job. So could you give me, you can't learn company culture from the employee handbook.
Right. Well, I'm also concerned, like Dallin said, if she's not getting any training or anything, it seems like there's a disconnect between, how do you say his name? Bautista? I'm saying it in Portuguese.
Yeah.
Batista, is that how we say it?
Bautista, yeah.
Okay. In Portuguese, that's the last name, but there's no U, so it's said differently. So Bautista, I feel like there's a disconnect between him and Follett because he's got this idea to hire a lot of new MBAs. That said that they were hiring on a lot of new people. But then apparently that news is not getting down to Follett and maybe even other managers because they aren't prepared to train these new people. So he's got this idea, but maybe he hasn't implemented it very well, or Follett maybe just ignored the training he gave on that. I don't know. So
Follett
maybe
is
there's a
new
disconnect.
manager. Sorry.
That's true. That's true. No, you're right. I did forget about that.
What did you say, Abby? Sorry, it cut out. Did you say she's a new manager?
Yeah, she's a new manager, which isn't
That's a good point.
necessarily, it's not a problem, but everybody else that Rinaldi had talked to, it seemed like everybody else kind of knew with new hire, but Follett was overwhelmed having the new hire. To the responsibility manager responsible for training and delegating, but she was so focused on getting the work done that she wasn't focused on delegating and training somebody else to do the work for her.
Right.
Well, there's no, part of this falls back to the HR department. I mean, they did a half-day training.
Oh, yeah.
But there should be some sort of onboarding process where you're following the employee, the progress. I mean, there should be certain steps followed in the training process and a guideline set up for a manager on making sure those steps are made, like the 90-day review, the sitting down and setting goals with your employee, things like that. So it was like there was no sort of onboarding process at all.
And HR is following up on that stuff too. Okay, so now the $1 million question, right? What should we do now?
What should Martha do? Is that what you said?
Yeah, what should Martha do now?
Well, she has to step up and decide if this is something she's going to.
Hold on 1 second. Dylan, you mute your microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I think she has a couple of big decisions to make. I mean, she has to decide whether or not she's willing to try and repair the dysfunctional relationship that's going on. But, that's not easy to do when you've let it get that ugly to the point that there's like backbiting going on amongst other employees and gossip and rumor spreading, like the affair thing that the coworker told her. But so it would take a lot of work and a lot of maturity. But she has to decide, is she willing to put that hard work into it, or does she want to learn enough from this company to stay and put that hard work into it? I'm not making any sense, sorry.
No, that made sense. No, it made sense.
If she was to try and salvage the situation, what would she do? What are some things that she could do to try and salvage it?
I think you have to. Oh, go ahead, Trevor. Sorry.
I would talk to the guy above. Oh no, I just forgot her name. But the guy's Batista or whatever.
Bautista.
Above her. And just kind of tell him what's going on and what she sees. I mean, it could be, it's just a new person having problems adjusting.
Right.
Or, from what it sounds like, other people realize and see the problem as well. Like, a lot of people commented to Rinaldi that Vaughn is really hard to work with. He's kind of a tough guy. And the same with what's her name? I forgot it. it's a weird one. The boss.
Oh, her manager, yeah.
Yeah, that girl.
Yeah.
But
Follett.
yeah. But in her current situation, I think there's a lot of damage that's been done, and it'd be kind of too hard to fix that in her current position. She's only been there 3 months. She's received bad reviews from her manager. I put that she should leave the company and go with the other offer. But I just think that's because too much damage has been done, and she's kind of got a crappy hand dealt to her.
So there is actually one person in between Follett and Batista, and that's Doug Berman.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the cool one, right?
Well, except that he
He was
kind of
supposed to
walked
be cool.
past her that one on like her first day.
I mean, cool, right? He was supposed to be cool.
Yeah, he was supposed to be cool, and then he just didn't acknowledge her at all the first day.
So she could have talked to him if he even gave her the time of day.
Yeah.
I think honestly, if she was handling it in a way that a lot of corporations prefer you handle it, you need to kind of follow that chain of command.
Right.
Like an adult.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Yeah, like an adult.
Like what?
Like an adult.
Like an adult.
Oh, yeah.
She needed to, I mean, because just from this, what we're seeing, she wasn't putting forth a real great effort to, have a positive relationship.
Right.
To me, instead of just jumping right to going up to Doug Berman or to Bautista, she should start with Follett and say, this is where my frustrations lie. Is this something that we can work out?
Right.
And kind of address it that way. And then if you don't get anything from there, then you go up, you do the next step and escalate it to where you need to escalate it if you're wanting to stay there.
I agree.
And Follett never seems to have time for her. So that was what I was thinking too. Well, she needs to talk to her, but then she doesn't want to talk to her. Follett doesn't have time for Rinaldi. But if she had sent an email, saying, what time in the next week can I meet with you for 30 minutes or an hour, then she could leave it open and give her a chance to choose, then she could really plan out a meeting, decide what points she wanted to cover, ask what she could do to improve. I feel like, open conversation would have been much better there with Follett. And she could also, I guess we all kind of look at this from our own perspective. It's hard to detach from your own experiences and things. What I would have seen this as a challenge. I would have been super excited. I would have been like, all right, so I have some rotten people to deal with and they hate my guts. So how can I, what am I going to do? Of course, if I were in this situation, I probably, hopefully would have prayed about it first, to make the decision. So I would have had some sort of support, I would have known that this was God's will. But that aside, I would have wanted to see how I could improve. You can become more patient with others, more willing to accept blame. Even if she didn't do anything wrong, she's being blamed for, different things. I mean, there's a lot to gain from this, like skills working with other people and stuff. I mean, this could be a great opportunity if she didn't just run away right at the very beginning. Not that it's a little matter. I mean, clearly this will be really stressful to work there, but I would kind of look at it as as a challenge, and I would want to do what Shayla said, go in and communicate, follow the chain of command and do my best. But I feel like there's a lot that she could do. That wasn't a very specific one, but that was my kind of view on it. It would be a good challenge.
I actually had this experience. I got hired on by this company that told me that I would become the customer service manager in after my first 90 days, right? So I start this job. I go in there. My boss is the customer service manager, which I didn't find out until after I got hired. And so it would have meant that I would have been taking my boss's job, and there wasn't really anywhere for my boss to go. So I was kind of confused about that. And then I caught my boss actually lying to customers. And I walked in and I kind of said something to her. I was like, well, this is the third time that this lady's called, and she still hasn't received the samples you promised to send to her. Is there something, can I go out to the warehouse and pull some more samples and send them? I've sent those 3 times. She just kind of yelled at me. And so I went back and I just kind of, I actually went out to the warehouse and pulled 3 more samples and sent more. And I asked the warehouse manager for the tracking number. Well, that's where I started. I asked the warehouse manager for the tracking number so that I could track the shipment. And he's like, she hasn't shipped anything in like 4 weeks. And this was the 3rd time that this lady had called in 3 weeks. So then I pulled the samples and I sent them, but I put my boss's name on it. And then the lady called back and like, it was a sale. This lady was calling, she was trying to buy stuff from us. And I went in and I told my manager and she's like, well, how did she get the samples? And I said, well, I sent them to her. Why did you do that? And I said, because you said that you'd already sent them out, but they didn't get there. I went to ask for a tracking number and Jose couldn't find it. So I just shipped her some more. And she was like, well, she got super upset with me. Anyway, long story short, I'm 6 weeks into this job and I'm ready to quit. And so I went into, and the only person above my boss was the owner, and he lived in Switzerland. So, and I'd never even met him. So there was no talking to her boss. So I just went into the operations, the VP of operations, and I was just like, Peggy, I can't. She's lying to customers. I had like 6 things documented that she had been doing. Besides lying to customers, she was lying to employees. She was taking like super long lunches, but then she would work until like 9 o'clock at night. It just was this weird, there was this weird thing going on. I don't even know what was going on with her. So I told the operations manager what was going on. I was just like, I can't do this. This isn't me. I'm not okay lying to people, and I don't need the job that bad. So I told her that I was probably going to be turning in my 2 weeks notice that week. And the next thing I know, the owner's flying in from Switzerland. The CEO is flying in from San Francisco. HR is pulling me into their office. And basically, my boss got fired.
No kidding.
And within 90 days, I was a customer service manager. But so it's hard. It's really hard when you're in that kind of a situation, and you know, like there's nothing you can do to salvage that relationship. Yeah. There's nothing. If she's going to keep lying to other people, and I'm not saying that Follette was lying. There's no evidence that she was, but she was clearly not making time for Rinaldi. So there is a possibility that there wasn't an opportunity for her to salvage that relationship, and she may have had to go to Doug and say, look, I can't do anything about this. Could you move me? But does she know Doug enough? Does she know Doug well enough to do that and have him not go to Natalie and say, hey, your employee is complaining about you. I have some concerns. And then have it get worse?
Yeah. Well, and I also, there was kind of this undertone in the case, and I don't know if I'm the only one that kind of thought this, but I was like just waiting and hoping for the affair to be like, to explode. And then, I mean, they can't do that because she's his superior, right? They can't do that. Well, and undocumented, right? And so I'm just like, I was just thinking, okay, I'll just hang on until that blows over and then someone's leaving, right? So that was kind of, probably that's why I had such a good attitude, because I was like, oh, it won't last very long, right? But I mean, that's not logical at all. It's just kind of what I felt from reading it. So not a good decision.
Well, so what do you guys think if she stays? So we've got the 2 options, right? She's going to stay or she's going to go. What are the advantages if she stays?
Well, they said that the advantages at the beginning was she would be able to move up faster than she would have with the other job. And I mean, that's a possibility still. I guess that's the biggest advantage to staying there. And it's better experience too.
Well, one reason that she wanted the job instead of the other one was that, like, a big thing that was mentioned more than once was that they train their employees really well, right? Well, now that she's in there and seeing, you know, if we're looking at her decision at this point in time, clearly she's not getting the training she wants. So that has to be out of the decision. That, you know, we have to take that off the pro list and put it on the con list, that she might get better training at the other company now.
Okay. Yeah, so basically what they're saying is there's more potential for growth.
Right.
At Potomac Waters. So she kind of felt like there was a ceiling at the other one so
Right.
I don't know. It's a tough decision. I mean, we've probably all had jobs that were unpleasant and difficult and had to make decisions whether we were going to stay or going to go. I have anyway, but I'm a lot older than some of you.
I lasted with that job for another 2 years.
So, just kind of going off that, for Rinaldi, she's just got like, obviously we'd all kind of approach it differently. We'd all have our different pros and cons, like for certain things. I think on this one, it's really hard to tell exactly. You kind of list them out because the pros, I'm trying to think, and it doesn't seem like there's much other than like the potential like growth that she could have personally, and like maybe it's a better like resume builder. But other than that, I don't feel like there's many pros. And for her, like in a situation like that, I feel like my pride would really get in the way of me kind of like proceeding and like doing like, forget everything and trying to work it out, just because it's kind of a dead end. Because in the last paragraph, it kind of talks about how, she could go to Bautista, but then it's kind of like undermining, who she should go to, like Follett. And then it said that she might be branded as a difficult employee if she does that, which is true. It's like nobody wants to see that. And so like for me, I'm just like, is this a dead end? Like, is there really any growth for me at this point? Should I just cut the losses and go somewhere else, or go to the previous job? So for me, that's kind of like my thinking for like the pros and cons. I'm just like, is there at this point enough growth, and like, does the pros outweigh the cons? And I really don't know, to be honest. I kind of struggled in my conclusion, writing. I pretty much left it open. Like, if she stays, she should just work hard, and just forget everything. And if she leaves, then leave and forget it again. So I was pretty passive on that.
Well, two of the pros that stuck out to me a lot were, like has been mentioned, the opportunities for growth. But then also she mentioned with Deep Dive, she didn't know the vice president of marketing and was unsure what their relationship would be. So she thought, and then she met the managers and other people at Potomac, and she thought, oh my goodness, they're awesome. They're so fun, and that contributed to her decision. Well, now that she's there, the first one, there's not nearly as much opportunity as she thought. And apparently it's not going very well either. So that's out. And then all kind of out, it's still possible, but it seems more likely at Deep Dive, where she has a good reputation. And then the second one, like the big important deciding factor, relationships with the managers, well, that's totally out. She has some friends in the company, but it's not it's not the same as it was at Deep Dive. So two of the biggest things that made her want to work here are no longer, they're not the way she thought they were. So those are two big cons now.
Except remember that there's an end in sight because they rotate the teams.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's a good point.
So she could stick it out for a little bit longer and get rotated.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point, actually.
Very good point. Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, my initial thing was, I think she made the wrong choice to begin with. I think people discount small companies pretty quickly. And there's so much opportunity. I'm a marketing manager now, and I didn't have any marketing experience. And I quit that other horrible job. She wasn't the only one lying in that company. And moved on to this one, and I didn't have any marketing experience when I started at this one, but it was such a small company. It was just my boss and I running the whole marketing department. And now he's moved on to VP of sales and marketing, and I'm running the marketing department with no previous marketing experience or a degree. So there's a ton of opportunity in a small company that people almost immediately discount, because a lot of times you're the only person in that department in a small company. But if you're the only person in that department, think of all all of the opportunity for growth. I mean, you get to do everything from the mass email blasts to the websites to running campaigns and talking to customers and traveling all over the place to, I mean, there's so much that she could have done for and with Deep Dive that I think she made the wrong choice initially. But now that she's done that, I also thought that it was important that she stuck it out. And like we talked about, work it out with Follett. At least try to work it out with Follett. And if she can't, then go to Doug. And if she can't get any traction there, go to Baptista. And if she can't get any traction there, then that's when she goes to Deep Dive. Because at most, the talking to Follett and trying to work things out and then going through all the way to the top of that company, at most, that's going to take 90 days, maybe 4 months, 120 days. And the opportunity at Deep Dive would likely still be there for her.
Right.
Well, you know, that she expresses the concern. I think it was you, Dallin, that mentioned that she might be labeled as a difficult employee. I think, you know, it really depends on how you go in and approach it. But ultimately, doesn't matter. I mean, what does she have to lose by going in to talk to them? Because she's trying to make a decision whether or not to leave. Yeah. So if it got really ugly, she could leave. But
that's a good point.
The professional, in my opinion, the professional way to have handled it would be if you didn't feel like you could talk to Follett, and sometimes there are people you just flat out cannot reason with because you will never, they can't be wrong.
Yeah.
No.
So, you know, and if that's the case, then do go straight to Doug and talk to Doug and say, you know, because I thought it was really interesting when Natalie snapped at her when she stuck her head in the office. And, you know, I've worked for somebody who did that, and it was kind of disconcerting. You're like, whoa, I just had a question.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
So
I know what she did.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead because I've got the conclusion.
Okay. Just quickly on that, I was just kind of ask like opinion. Well, yeah, just brief opinions. Would you recommend, you know, talking to people like, you know, Martha? Would you go talk to her first, or at that point would you just kind of try to pull everybody in, like try to pull her in, try to get, you know, Bautista, and just kind of like talk about it as a group? Because in a group it's almost like less threatening, you know, I think, as far as like, and as far as both parties go, I think it would be almost better if there's not witnesses, but like other people, you know, to like pipe in and whatnot. Sorry, this dog is going crazy.
Oh, that's okay. You guys heard my dog's bark earlier? That could go either way, Dallin.
I was just thinking
like,
yeah,
I feel like you could almost feel like you were being ganged up on a little bit.
Right. Although you're right, that for you, like for me, going into a meeting with other people, that's way less threatening than one-on-one. I totally agree. But then also it could go either way afterwards, because it might be fine during the meeting. You know, maybe they'll make her be reasonable because they're reasonable people, you know, the other managers and stuff. But then once you're alone with her, she might be even more angry. So that could be, I'd be worried about the backlash in case you got.
I can't believe you did that to me in front of so and so and so and so.
Right, right.
Or honestly, she could lose face with the upper management too. By the way she handled it, where they could be like, you know what, if you can't figure out how to be professional and handle a problem like this, how can we trust you to promote you?
Right.
So yeah, that one's a hard call.
Well, are
I'm
you
still voting for the meeting? I'm still voting for her to email her boss and just say, hey, what time in the next week works? And then just make a list and just say, you know what, I am learning so much and I'm grateful for what you're teaching me. What can I do to make, you know, that, what would you like to see me improve on? And then she can do it. And then her boss will be able to say, I told you to, you know, and I mean, she needs to take some action and set her own standards for herself, since she's not given any projects really or anything. Not that would solve it, but it might be a good way to start. Yeah, I'm done.
No, well, if she had the email chain, and there was no response from Follett, then she could then she would at least have that documentation.
Yes, I tried.
Yeah.
Document everything.
Yeah.
From personal experience, document everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will remember
I
that.
fired a girl for being on drugs once, and that's not an easy thing to do if you don't have everything documented.
You had who on drugs?
I had to fire somebody on drugs once.
Oh.
Yeah. And the HR, fortunately, we had a really professional HR department at the time. And she was very, if you have a good enough HR department, when you get into a situation like this, you really can just go to HR, and they're kind of like going to the bishop. They're supposed to keep things confidential. So you
Right.
go and talk to them, and
Mm-hmm.
they are supposed to help. They're supposed to help you through these types of situations. So if she had gone to HR, she could have gotten some advice too on how to handle Follette. You know, I'm having these problems. I don't know how to communicate with her. Could you give me some
That's a good
pointers on?
point.
She's been around for a while. You guys know her. Can you give me some pointers on how to communicate with Follette? To Shayla's
That's a-
original point, though, I don't think that she had the maturity to do any of that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point though, Abby, because you know, I personally have never gone to HR, but I know of a coworker who has, and she did receive some guidance, and you know, the HR didn't come and talk to the manager about it,
Right.
but it helped the employee feel a little bit better because she had some specific guidelines to follow, and kind of that helped her out.
It was a huge help to me. There's no way I would have made it through that situation without HR's help.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've had to, as a supervisor, had to bring HR in many a time. But I've never had to go to HR because of a frustration with a supervisor. Knock on wood.
I have at that same company.
Oh.
Surprise. Okay, so are you guys ready for the end?
Yes.
Anybody have anything else before I give you before spoilers? Okay, so there's just 3 bullet points. Follette and Vaughn both left shortly after.
I knew it.
Rinaldi learned that Follette had actually been job hunting during Rinaldi's time there, which would explain some of the stress.
Yeah, the
Yep.
non-engagement.
Right.
Wow.
And then Rinaldi had 2 new bosses who admired her work and relied on her, and she was promoted ahead of schedule.
What?
Wow.
That's awesome.
So what do you think Rinaldi, in all of that, and after all of that, what do you think Rinaldi learned about herself?
She can deal with difficult situations.
Hopefully,
Or at
she
least
can.
hang on long enough to get out of it.
Yeah. Be patient.
Yeah, I think perseverance is a good word.
Mm. Hopefully she learned some skills on how to deal with coworkers, managers, that kind of thing, and developed her own skills a little bit. That helped her.
Speaking of that, I actually did admire her for when she was asked how things were going, she didn't out her manager.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I admired her for that because that did show some level of maturity, in that she knew enough to not throw people under the bus, at least
Mhm.
without
Right.
their presence.
Right. Well, it would have been immature if she had just said everything up front, right? But I did kind of think when I read it, darn it, she missed an opportunity to at least alert the boss to the presence of some sort of problem. She didn't need to say names or any specifics, but maybe she could have said, for example, you know, I'm a little concerned because sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of ambiguity in my responsibilities, or I mean, that's a terrible way to say it, you know, but she could not blame anyone, but say, sometimes I feel like this, you know. I don't know if that would go over. I mean, if there was a way to say it in such a way that it wouldn't like blame her boss, but she could say, you know, I'm struggling with this, so, you know, make it seem like it's her fault. I don't know if.
Yeah.
I felt like she could have at least been a little bit honest, but you're right. Not throwing him under the bus that was really important.
Yeah. So, with the last couple minutes that we have, how do you think she could have managed up? Or was there an opportunity to manage up in that situation?
What does that mean?
To manage up means you manage your boss, manage the manager.
Oh, that's what I thought. Okay, I didn't know if it was like a specific special term.
I think just having an open line of communication would have been one thing, because the boss clearly didn't.
Well, in her case, she would have to initiate the open conversation. She would have to be the one to be responsible and go in and talk about it, you know, and state, you know, this happened last week and this is how I felt about it. What would you like me to do to improve the situation, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I put in my paper is like, she needs to try everything she can communication open. Like when she did the presentation for the ROI and she fixed it like 3 different things, I think it said, and they got complimented for their work. What she could have done is like asked Colette, like, what do I need to improve on like not just that specific example or that specific presentation, but like when she's fixing all those slideshows, maybe send like an email or something that says, what can I improve on the next time so that this goes better, or what is your preference on this, or stuff like that.
Those kinds of comments will go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, showing initiative and, you know, asking if there are additional responsibilities she can take on, that kind of thing. Also, I know managers appreciate it.
Oh, sorry, Shayla.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think trying to be a problem solver, you know, coming up with solutions, not complaining, and really in the end, you can only do your own part. You can't, you know, obviously like accountability, like based on individuals. So you can't choose how your manager is going to respond at that point, but you can control what you can control. And that's, yeah, I think, you know, you can go home happy at night. So I think, you know, for Martha, I'm glad it worked out, you know.
True.
Okay, well, that's everything that I've got, and we've covered pretty much everything, all the questions and everything that are in the agenda. Does anybody have any last comments or anything, any personal experiences? We're just about at an hour, so sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say probably, but not any that I want to put out on YouTube.
I know, me neither. I have them, but I have other homework too.
All right. Well, then, thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully, Matt's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I checked the discussion board and you didn't have anything on there, so.
Oh, that's strange.
I haven't heard.
Sent an email. Maybe you just forgot.
I had one question real quick. Where did it say that she had like a specific time frame of like how long she would be at the company, like a trial period or what? Did it say that in the case study, or?
No, I don't think so. They talked about the 90-day review, and then they talked about switching teams every like 18 to 24 months or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the only specific time frame I think that they had.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, early performance review within the first 3 months, and corporate policy to encourage promotions from within. Product managers changed assignments every 12 to 24 months to get experience about all the stages of the product life cycle.
Okay.
I still stand by my original that she made the wrong original decision, but now that she's there, got to make the best of it.
All right.
Yep, I agree.
All right, guys. Well,
All
thanks
right, guys.
Okay, we'll see you next week.
Okay, see you next week.
All right.
Abby.
See you next
Bye.
week.
Bye.